if somebody made a mistake, no matter how big it was, monetary wise, or whether we lost a contract or lost, anything, I never fired that person because I would sit down with the person and say, this mistake you'll never make again. So I'd never want to lose you because we've got the worst out of the way.
Welcome back to another installment of the NextGen Case Study series. On today's episode, we have Pallabi Saboo, who is the founder and executive chair of Harmonia Holdings Group, a technology solutions company that she acquired back in 2006. Under her leadership, Harmonia has grown from a small business into a powerhouse with over 400 employees, specializing in cutting-edge technologies for federal and commercial sectors. With numerous accolades, including being named one of Washington's top female CEOs back in 2008 or 2009, Pallabi's leadership has made a lasting impact on both business innovation and community development, which is why we're excited to have her on the show. Pallabi, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get into some of the work that you're doing with Harmonia. I know that before we jumped on camera here, you mentioned that back when you were younger, we took some big risks and it really paid off here. But before we get too far into it, I wonder if maybe you could share a little bit with us about the background on who you are, where you came from, and how you kind of landed the role in Harmonia.
All right. So I was a student from India, a poor student from a middle class family. I'm an army brat, and I came to Virginia Tech on a TA. And then when I graduated, I went to work for a bank, believe it or not, because while I had a computer science undergrad, my MS was in marketing. So I joined the Roanoke General Frederick Credit Union as the marketing director. And then about after 6 or 7 years, I had my one and only child. And I didn't want an 8 to 5 job. I wanted some flexibility. As I looked around for jobs which did really need me to be in office and would allow me some flexibility, the dean of my college introduced me to Dr. Mark Abrams, who is my co-founder with me on Harmonia. And he had actually started Harmonia, the original version of Harmonia, way back in 1999. And it wasn't doing too great. He had contracts, but it was still, you always need, somebody told me a long time back, to run a business or to really have a successful startup, you need three kinds of people. You need the dreamer, you need the bullshitter, and you need the hacker. So Dr. Abrahams was the hacker. I was probably the bullshitter. And probably between the two of us, we were also dreamers. So Adine connected us. We joined on an April 15th, 2006 is when I first became an employee of Harmonia. And then soon after realizing, sometimes you just know it's your sweet spot. You just know it was not something I did intentionally. It was something I did for flexibility. But you just come to know that this is something I can be good at. You feel it in your bones. And I think all of us have those moments in life. And I decided to take major ownership in Harmonia, absorb take a little bit of risk. I was young. I wasn't thinking, and I'm glad I wasn't thinking too hard, but it has paid off. Dr. Abrams and me had a wonderful journey. We grew rapidly, first doing a lot of small business innovative research grants. So we never had to take a line of credit or never had to get VC funding into the company. The company grew from nothing to now in excess of $100 million, just based on that initial funding the government gave us in terms of grants. So that belief that the US federal government put in us means so much to me, because back home, probably I would not have had this kind of opportunity. Along the journey, we added Jay Saboo, because Mark and me kind of lacked a vision or a strategy. We knew how to get money, and Jay Saboo once told us, you're like a boat with unlimited fuel going round and round in the ocean, but where are you going? He joined us, I think, in 2012 and really helped grow Harmonia into the federal services sector. Harmonia saw immense growth from there on. Later, I think about 6 years back or 7 years back, we added the fourth leg of our stool, Adil Patibandla, who is a great business development guy who knew everybody. He remembers names, people, their stories, and you kind of need that. You need that in a business. So Harmonia, as it stands today, is complete on its four-legged table, so to say, with four people really bringing complementary skills together.
So talk to me a little bit about how your early influence kind of shaped the trajectory of the path that you took with Harmonia. Like, how did you How does your role evolve? What were you taking on in the early days? I know in a startup, you wear a lot of hats or take on a lot of responsibilities. And, now that you're in excess of 100 million, where has that role taken you?
So it's funny. Harmonia didn't even have business cards till a few years back. We came from a small business mentality because we'd grown incrementally. So we all did whatever we were good at. And when there was a deadline, we all, no matter what the area was, whether it was writing a proposal or whether there was a lot of client meetings or whether it was onboarding on a new contract, a lot of people, we all stepped in and did everything. And it's only in the very recent past that we actually had business cards and we had titles. In spite of that, I don't think the whole culture, whether it is the four of us, whether it's me and Mark or Jay or Anil or the second tier, or even as we go down in tiers, nobody comes with an attitude of this is my job and I don't want to do anymore, because the culture was such that, you do what you excel at, you get a chance to try other things, and you all help out depending on which area needs were. Now where Harmonia stands, obviously we want to grow to be $1 billion one day. And we will be getting, hopefully, private equity funding or some kind of investment into the company to help us scale to the next level. As we add more people into the mix, obviously roles will get more formalized because the culture will lose a little bit of its informality, and that is much needed as well, I think, at a different growth level. So I don't know if that answers your question, but broadly, Mark still is our technology guru. I still am a very relationships oriented person. Anil is our business development growth kind of person, and Jay is like the strategy king. We would not be here without him. We were, as an example, almost the, if not the first, almost the first company to file a mentor protege application with the Small Business Administration, which allows companies. So just to backtrack a little, in the world of federal contracting, you are small up to a certain number. I think it's $35 million in size. But when you're small and you have statuses like woman-owned or HubZone or minority-owned or veteran disabled, whatever, you can go after contracts that are set aside for you. As we were growing and we realized that we would no longer be small in about 3 or 4 years, we adopted the process of taking on proteges, which was a new thing SBA had started. And the government allows us to take 3 proteges. So Jay Saboo, now the CEO, because I stopped being CEO about 3 years back, took on 3 proteges who he had cultivated over several years of relationship building. And through them, the government allows you to own 40% of the company and do 60% of the work. So while we couldn't do 100% of the work, through our proteges, which he helped mentor and grow, we could still touch about 70+% of the work. So, the growth strategy kind of evolves as you build an ecosystem around you so that you can target different opportunities that you individually might not be able to target. And it becomes there's a very famous saying, alone you can go fast, but together you go far. We've used that in our ecosystem. Everybody has done well. All Harmonia, along with the 3 proteges, have grown. Hopefully, in the next few years, the proteges will take on proteges as they outgrow their size standard. So it's a well-oiled machine that we have built over time.
I get a sense that the culture of the company has been at the forefront of all of the work that you're doing in how you structure the team, how you empower individuals to make decisions or to take on tasks that are maybe bigger than themselves. And I think that leads to a lot of purposeful work. And with that purposeful work, you attract better talent and resources and the things that you need to kind of continue trekking down that path to growth. And you mentioned that $1 billion is kind of this is the big goal. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that as an entrepreneur myself, when you set a big goal, even yourself, sometimes you don't really believe in it. I remember when I set out to start a media company, I said, I'm going to have a $400 media company, just like Gary Vaynerchuk. And then you get into the mud of it all and realize that a $400 million company is not an easy thing to build.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if you could talk to some of the lessons that you learned along the way that helped keep things in perspective as you continued to aim at that goal that was so big that maybe even yourself, sometimes you don't believe that it's possible?
Right. So when I started, look at how the goal changes. The goalpost changes as you evolve. I
Mhm.
started to be able to be a flexible mother for my child. The goal was nothing but to have a job. Then I found my sweet spot and I was like, maybe we can do this business. It will grow and we'll have people and I still have my flexibility. My daughter, 14, 15, you lose them. You lose them first to the cell phones and then you lose them to the world, right? So the
Yeah.
goal got even bigger. It's like, why can't we, when we went into services work, let's shoot for first. It was 15 million, then it was 50 million, then it was 75, then it was 100. And growth is, somebody told me a long, long, long time back, growth is like a hockey curve, right? Hockey stick. So it's like this, and you accelerate at a point. So we are
Mhm.
here at the curve of the hockey stick. And now we know if we do things right, because we have a well-oiled system. We have the infrastructure, we have the know-how. It's a matter of now amplifying the growth by getting external investors, external experts. And I can see this hockey stick coming into shape in the near future, maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years, and it may not never happen, right? You never
Mhm.
know. But if you aim too low, that's what it is, right? The greater danger for us is that we aim too low and achieve our goal. It's better to aim high, and I might not reach $1 billion. The whole team may not reach it, but even if we reach 750, hey, we reach somewhere better than we were. So that, and then what we do to help us along, because ultimately a company is, especially in our line of work, is the team. It's not something I do. In fact, a lot of customers don't even know me. It's not something that the management does. It's something that the people do, right? And if the
Mhm.
people know that they will grow with the company, as the company grows, rather than the company get external parties in who will rule over them. If these people are empowered to build their teams, you suddenly have a whole team on the same sheet of music because they grow with the company. So I think everybody has that dream. With every changing goalpost, we come up with a slogan, and now the slogan is the $1 billion dream. The slogan first was something else when we were aiming for maybe $15 million. So if everybody has a catchy slogan that they are aligned behind, it's so much easier on a daily basis, on good days and bad days, to keep that focus. I think that helps.
Right. Ideas are very powerful drivers. And if you can get everybody that's on the team to enroll in the big idea, then that intrinsic motivation kind of exists and fuels itself and kind of pushes things forward. So when you were kind of carving out these different milestones, I imagine your approach to the marketing engine of the company is a little bit different at each of these stages. Could you maybe share what that customer experience map looked like early on, and then maybe how it's evolved and where it's at now?
Yeah. So our initial, when we started with small business innovative research grants, right? I remember the very first one, which convinced me that probably taking ownership in this company is not a bad idea for me, was SBIRs have phase one and phase two. The phase one is about 6 months, and 4 or 5 companies get selected. Only one company, and sometimes two, will go forward to a phase two, which is 1.5 million. Now it might be up to 2.4, but in the earlier days, it was a smaller amount. And I remember I was so desperate to win that during that 6 month phase one, I was in Blacksburg. I would get up to DC every week and meet with the stakeholders. And when they awarded us the phase two, the stakeholders said, "You were the only company among I think there were five phase one awardees, who kept asking me, 'What can I do for you?' rather than telling me what the reverse. This is what I do, and you fit it in, right? You were
Right.
desperate, you were eager to please, you were flexible to meet our goals. So we had a lot of flex, and that lesson I kept. So we even till today, it's what can we do for you to make your job better, no matter what the scope of the contract is, because things change on a daily basis, especially in the IT world. But as we grew, when you hit 30, 50 employees, there's no way you can be talking to every customer. So the strategy then became, if you train your BD people or your project managers with the lessons you have learned, and you show and share how you have failed and succeeded. Everything I did, everything any of us did, was never always successful. So you learn the strategy worked, that didn't work. And as you train the incoming youngsters with that same philosophy, one, they appreciate it. Who doesn't want to hear your failures, because it makes you more human, right? Everybody talks about successes, but sharing your failures is so powerful. It makes you reachable, it makes you human, and it makes the other person more confident that it's okay to try and fail.
Mm.
So, and that culture kept inculcating as we kept moving up, every tier trained with the same cultural mindset, the incoming layer. So I think that basically flexibility, customer respect, lack of arrogance, sharing our failures and encouraging failures uh, is a culture that has helped us grow.
Yeah, there's something really powerful in that, leading with the negative thing just to kind of get it out of the way. I know that one of the a book I read not too long ago, I think it's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and
I've
he
read that,
talked about,
yes.
yes, he talks about calling out the ugly thing in the room right away. Hey, listen, I've failed in the past when I did this and this happened, and here's what we did to adjust course. That's something that we need to prepare for.
Uh-huh.
Mind you, these are all of the potential things that could exist if we're successful. And so there's this really nice kind of tie-in to lead people down that path towards something that they want, while also keeping them apprised to some of the cautionary things that are going to appear along the way. I love that. Above and beyond seems to be kind of the common thread here in the work that you do, that you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves, get dirty, get in there, make something happen. Going to DC as many times you did, being the only person out of five that uh, clearly wanted to earn the business is, I think, part of why you've been rewarded with the success that you have been.
Mhm.
You've earned it every step of the way, and that's really cool to see that. Um, there is a possible, because the thing is, like, a lot of people when they hear that go above and beyond thing come from this very defensive stance where they're afraid that they're going to get taken advantage of, and the reward or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow isn't going to be there. And it's true, it's not a guarantee, but when it comes to you making those decisions, like, how did you keep some of that, like, negative internal dialogue down or away, or not let it affect your pursuit of this thing? Did you just take on this perspective that it didn't really matter what you did, you were just doing it anyways? Or, like, how did you navigate that?
So, the underlying for me personally was I wanted to be a good role model for my daughter. So I came up the hard way. My dad died when I was not even 10. My mom was not very educated, but she had so much resilience. And the one thing she was like, you got to work for yourself and you got to try and strive for the best because there is no other way. And she was 10th fail and she managed to put us in the best school. She became a real estate investor with very limited knowledge. So I saw this woman who had nothing achieved so much. And she was a great role model for me. And I wanted to keep trying my potential to be a good role model for my one and only child, and especially a woman child. Because in India, I heard a lot about, oh, the only thing you lack is you don't have a son. Right? It's there in the Indian mentality. I don't know if it's there in other cultures. So I never wanted my daughter to not be more than a son, right? Not there.
Mm,
I don't think there's a difference between a man and a woman. And there's no reason for me to treat her like a man, like a girl versus a boy, right? So that underlying thing that a woman can do anything, and there really is not a glass ceiling if you don't think about it. If we assume there's a glass ceiling, and I hear many people say there is, but I'm often believe that if you assume something is there, you will automatically curtail yourself. So I've
mm,
never believed myself, and I've never let her believe, and I've never seen it come into play. In fact, it's worked the reverse for me. Being the only woman of color and sometimes only woman in a room of men has worked to my advantage rather than to my disadvantage.
right.
So definitely being the role model was the first messaging which carried me through all the negatives. And then for my team, if somebody made a mistake, no matter how big it was, monetary wise, or whether we lost a contract or lost, anything, I never fired that person because I would sit down with the person and say, this mistake you'll never make again. So I'd never want to lose you because we've got the worst out of the way, right?
Right.
Let's just figure out how to not make the same mistake, small or big again. What did we learn and how to improve? I think that also learning from those mistakes and everybody having a goal, a common goal, and then my personal goal helps you ride through all the negativity because it's never a bed of roses. Life in general is not a bed of roses. Business itself is maybe compounded trials and tribulations. But the attitude, uh, what's that saying? Life is 92% attitude and 8% what happens to you.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
saying like that, I believe in that.
Yeah, if you believe it, then it is true. I'm such a huge subscriber to this idea that whatever your belief is, wherever you got that system, wherever you got that information that you are found, like the foundation of what your belief system is, that is what will manifest as a result because your thoughts lead to the actions that you take. The actions that you take lead to the results that you get. And so if you think, and I hate to say it this way, Pallabi, but just follow me through this. If you have a seemingly delusional level of belief in an idea, and everybody around you is like, that's impossible. But you're the one person that's like, no, it's not. I actually do really truly believe that this is possible, that I can do X, Y, Z and achieve one, two, three as a result. Well, then you remove all of those invisible barriers between you and taking the action. And so you can now take that action with even an iota of confidence, and those actions now, as kind of compound on the small successes, they lead to the bigger one. And so
Mhm.
it may seem delusional at first, but as you kind of stack up this undeniable proof or evidence that it is possible, it becomes exponential. That hockey stick curve where it just starts
Yeah.
compounding on itself, and you could have been limited by the belief, and so if you think about what is possible versus what is not possible, that kind of leads you down that path. So I love that that's a part of the mantra. So we're kind of coming to a close of with our time together here, and I wonder if we can look forward here in the final minutes of our show. And you said you're aiming at this at the $1 billion mark now. There's a lot of things in between here and then for that to be a reality. What is your approach? How are you aiming at that? What are you going to do differently now in this kind of next leg of the journey? And what are you kind of excited about that's coming down the pipeline towards you?
So, about 2 years back, I put myself through an executive management program in Harvard because I knew when we get money in, will come control.
Mm,
I'm used to being in charge, but to work in what I call the sandwich management, where there'll be whether there's a PE firm on top of me or whether they get their own management team on top of me, right? And yet to keep my team intact, to be able to learn when I'm not calling all the shots
mm,
and be adapt to the restriction put on me and yet try to create success, not let the ego come in the way, have more structured methodologies to grow. Because what you can do, you can be haphazard and random when you're smaller. But I think as the company grows, more and more structure is really important to keep a cohesiveness. So to be able to learn to survive in the environment, to have more formal toolkits in my back pocket, to be able to talk a talk which is different when you're part of external parties in your company. Learning that lesson, I knew I couldn't do it on my own without formal training. So hopefully, in the very near future, whatever I learned at Harvard will come into play, and I'll know how much attention I paid to all the lectures and case studies. But it's definitely going to be a growth, and I have to be flexible and open-minded, and definitely keep. I don't have an ego, I think, but if it surfaces at some point, keep that in check for a greater goal to be achieved. Uh, I think all those will be called to play in the future.
I love that you pointed at the ego thing because that's a big thing that gets in the way a lot of the time. If you were worried about what you look like or what it looks like or the reputation that you are portraying or this image that you're building, then you can very quickly become controlled by that and make decisions that aren't beneficial in the long run or for the business or for yourself or for anybody else around you for that matter. So that's really cool that that's a big part of it. So what sorts of challenges do you think you're going to face along the way in terms of growth and the whole marketing engine?
So you know what happens in the space we are, which is federal contracting. When while there's always a thing the government feels small companies bring innovation and large companies bring infrastructure support. That's a mindset. If you want stability and infrastructures to maintain, you must go with a large company. They're going to be there forever. And small companies can bring innovation. That middle tier, even at $1 billion, or the journey from 100 to billion is still middle tier. Large companies are multi-billion dollars. To survive in this area where there's no clear-cut customer perception and to keep having the customers give you work and to win work is definitely a new playing field. You write a proposal, how do you shape it to show your value? And we still have to learn it. And we have to be able to sell that vision to the customers. So there's a whole new paradigm we must adopt. And that will be our biggest challenge, because while the machinery may be well oiled, the customer also has to continue to believe in us. And we must relearn how to tell a story about why us versus somebody else. I think those are the biggest challenges we will see.
Yeah, we really got to be cautious about the stories. That's one thing that a lot
Yeah.
of people aren't even present to, which I'm surprised to hear somebody else mention it, that the idea of the thing that you're telling yourself and how true it becomes if you're telling the right story. So that's really cool. Are there any kind of upcoming trends or things that you see in the industry that you're particularly excited about?
Of course, AI. Everybody's talking about AI. We've seen it used nicely and not so nicely. People are writing proposals with AI.
Hmm.
People are doing evaluations with the help of AI. So I think adopting AI, using it sensibly, putting that AI with the human intervention um, is the future. So playing in that future, becoming experts in that, adopting it is certainly the tech trend, at least for the next 5 years or so.
Yeah, something definitely to look out for.
Yeah.
Pallabi, for the closing thoughts here, I'm going to leave this one with you. If you had one piece of advice for somebody else that's out there, kind of in a similar role or up to similar things, and they're facing some challenges that they need to overcome, what advice would you offer them?
So, I talk as a woman leader, right?
Hmm.
So a man can get away by pulling up somebody who hasn't performed in a firm tone, no problem. A woman needs to, and I don't mean to be sexist, but I always tell, when I speak to a lot of women, I'll say, they're used to a cat meowing and a dog barking. If a cat starts barking, that sounds odd. And the reason I say that is, it's okay to have your feminine approach to handle some things. You try to fit yourself, and it's a man's world. I need to be a man. It's very hard to succeed. So I think being who you are, and then leading with the strengths and weaknesses of what you look like, whether it's gender, whether it is race, whether it is knowledge, leading with your skill sets and the cards life has dealt you, accepting that and leading with that will create success. Pretending or trying to become somebody else and lead has never worked for me. So I've been genuine. I've never claimed to know what I don't know. I have adopted the fact that I'm a mother and I need flexibility, and I've shared that and I've allowed for that. I think that's what I say, be yourself, because everybody else is taken. You rule as yourself, or you lead as yourself, or you perform as yourself. Success is bound to happen.
I love that. That very, very sound advice. If somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn.
Find you on
I'm
LinkedIn.
on
Perfect.
LinkedIn every night. That's my Bible.
Cool. Well, make sure to link to that in the show notes. And so if anybody watching or listening wants to get in touch with you, they can do it easily that way. And on that note, if you want to get in touch with me and my team for any of your marketing or AI needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this interview. Thanks for joining us for this conversation, and I will see you in the next.